Okay, fine. Okay, let me tell you something. If you are getting ready for going to attend a wedding or a birthday party, how will you decorate yourself? Will you wear your uniform and then go and attend the party? No, isn't it? You will decorate yourself with you will wear some party wear or any other dress which you like the most, which is suitable for that occasion, isn't it? You will decorate yourself. You will put some makeup, lipstick, everything. And boys with suits, with shoes, isn't it? You will decorate yourself to the best and you will attend those wedding or any other function, isn't it? You will not just go simply. Similarly, poets decorate their poetries, and those decorative items just like hairband, just like makeup creams, just like lipstick, just like our formal outfits, all those poets are using something to decorate their poetries, their poems, and those decorative items are called as figures of speech. What is it called? It is called as figures of speech. They are trying to decorate their poetry with these decorative items, these figures of speech. Today, we are going to learn one of those figures of speech, that is metaphor. What we are going to learn today? One of those figures of speech, one of those decorative items which are used by the poets to decorate their poetry, and that is metaphor. Okay? Metaphor is the figure of speech that is used it is implying instead of a simile. What is a simile? In a simile, we can find the words like, as, isn't it? They are comparing one thing with another. That is simile. There, the words like and as are directly, they are visible to us. But instead of that, they did not mention the words like and as, but they will compare two things. That is what called metaphor. It is an implied simile. Without using the words like and as, we are comparing two things. Here, in metaphor, they will take things for granted and they will compare two things, and sometimes it may not be looking like they are same. But the poet will apply another thing instead of this to compare, and both are equal. For example, I'll say a sentence. He is like a lion. He is like a lion. And in this sentence, we can see the word like, isn't it? And so it is a simile. He is like a lion. Instead of like, if we are taking this like out, we can say he is a lion. Literally, he is not a lion, he is not an animal, but his behavior, his boldness, his courage, his brave, and his character looks like that he is a lion. So, he is like a lion is a simile. He is a lion is a metaphor. Can you understand? Without using the words like and as, if we are comparing two things, and that is called as a metaphor. Here, in our poem, the poet is comparing himself with a castle, isn't it? And he is comparing his daughters with robbers. He is comparing his heart with a dungeon, isn't it? So, like this, if we are comparing two different things and are comparing it and are showing it as same character, as same quality, that is called as a metaphor. Have you all understood general ideas about metaphor? Okay. Students, now look at this sentence. He is a lion. He is a lion is a metaphor. He is not a lion. He is not an animal. But his behavior, his boldness, his bravery is looking like the attitude of a lion. And so, the poet is comparing a person with an animal with lion. So, he is a lion. It's a metaphor. He is like a lion. Here we can see the word like, and so it's a simile. Can you understand? Next, she is a pig. It doesn't mean that she is a pig. This shows that she is a lazy girl. Just like a pig, she is lazy. Instead of using that laziness, the poet is comparing that laziness with a pig and says that she is a pig. And so here is also the poet is using a metaphor. Life is a dream. Life is a dream. It's a metaphor. Life is like a dream. It's a simile. Okay, here we cannot find the word like. Life is a dream. Here the poet is comparing life with dreams. And so it's a metaphor. Next, in our poem, The Children's Hour, the poet have used so many metaphors in almost all the paragraphs. He compares himself with a castle, his heart with a dungeon, his daughters with robbers, isn't it? And, but put you down into my dungeon. Here the dungeon refers to his heart. He is comparing his heart with a dungeon. Dungeon, in old castles they have prison. That is what called dungeon. So he is comparing his heart with dungeon. And so this line is a metaphor, isn't it? Now can you understand what is a metaphor and what is the difference between a metaphor and a simile? And you have an exercise to do. In your book there is a question that please find out those metaphors which are used by our poet Longfellow in the poem The Children's Hour. Will you do it? Just read the poem once again and find out where the poet is comparing something with another, with an unnatural thing, and showing that both are equal. Just I have told you he compares himself with a castle, isn't it? Castle wall. And similarly, he used so many metaphors in the poem, and you have to find it out. Will you do it, students? Okay, good. Students, do you remember what we have learned in the poem, which is written by Henry Longfellow? Very good. What is the title of the poem we are learning now? The Children's Hour, isn't it? And we can see what is the love of a father towards his daughters. What are the names of the three daughters? Alice, Allegra and Edith. Very good. And this poem completely explains about the love of a father, love of Longfellow towards his three daughters, isn't it? At first the poet is saying that he first explains the climate there, and he is saying that this evening time is a suitable time for him to play with for him to spend time with his three daughters. And he is saying that when he is reading a book in his chamber, his three daughters are walking. He could hear the footsteps of his three daughters, and they are planning, they are plotting to make their father to be surprised. And then he is comparing himself with a castle, and he is saying that his three daughters climbed on the chair where he was sitting and is reading, and his three daughters covered himself and they kissed him continuously. Here he is comparing himself with a castle. robbers will steal something from the house. My daughters completely stolen their love from me. And he is again saying, though they came to my castle, there is nothing to take from me other than love. And then he is comparing his girls, his daughters are continuously kissing him, isn't it? Here he compares himself with the Bishop of Benton, who was killed by an army of mice. And then he is saying that, now I am growing so old. I don't know when will I die. I have nothing to give back to the love of my daughters. And he is saying that he is comparing his heart with a dungeon. And is saying that I will keep the love for my daughters in my heart till the day of my death. Till this castle gets crumbled. Till this castle gets shattered. I will keep the love for my daughters. It's an everlasting love. This is what we have seen in the poem The Children's Hour. Isn't it? Here we can see only the love between the father and his three daughters. It's an everlasting love. I hope you all have understood the poem. Isn't it? Okay. Students, do you remember what we have learned in the first lesson? The little prince visits the king. It is all about a conversation between a king and a little prince. A little prince decides to visit all the planets there in space, isn't it? Do you know what is an asteroid? Okay, good. Asteroids are heavenly bodies that are looking like rock. It is irregular in shape, which is made of carbon, metal and stone, isn't it? So this little prince decides to visit all the planets. At first, he met a king, a lonely king. He lived all alone in that planet for so many years. And because of his tiredness, this little prince yawned. And the king said that this is not the right manners. This is not the right etiquette to behave in front of a king. Isn't it? Then the king, this is the first time he is seeing a person who is yawning. And the king orders him to yawn again. But the little prince refuses to yawn. And he said, if I order any soldier, any of my minister to change himself into a seabird or a butterfly, he will change. If he is not changing himself, if he is not turning himself into a seabird or a butterfly, that is not his mistake, that is my mistake. Then they converse with each other, and the little prince found no place for him to sit there. And then again and again this little prince is asking so many questions to the king, isn't it? Then this little prince asked him, over whom or over what are you ruling? The king said, over everything, over everything. Everything is under my control. And this little prince asked, do the stars obey you? And the king said, yes, all the stars obey me, because all my orders are reasonable. All my orders are logical, and that's why all the stars, all the planets will obey me. And how the king called this little prince? This king called this little prince as a subject. And this little prince wants to see the sunset. And the king said, okay, you can see the sunset, but you have to wait until the time comes. And then this little prince decides to leave the planet, leave the place, and the king feels very sad because till now he was all alone in that planet. Now at least he could find a subject. This little prince wants to go away, and the king don't want him to depart. And then he said, I'll make you as a minister. And minister of what? Minister of justice. And and the king asked him to judge others who are there in the planet. But reality is there is nobody to judge. Only a rat is there, isn't it? And this little prince refuses to judge the rat because we have no right to judge others. We have no right to punish others. This poor little prince refused to judge that poor little rat. And then he bids farewell to the king and he starts his journey again. This is what we have seen in the first lesson, the little prince. So far we have seen a prose, the little prince visits the king, and a poem, the children's arm. I hope you all have understood everything till today, what we have learned. Is that clear, students? Okay. Students, for the next class, we shall have an exam, a small test. So, be prepared for the test, alright? Students, open your book and take page number 25. Take page number 25. Metaphors. Henry Wordsworth Longfellow peppers the poem with metaphors to set the scene and describe how deeply he loves his daughters. Here the poet used metaphors to describe how he is loving his daughters. Here we have 4 examples for metaphors which are used by the poet in this poem. Okay? The first one, a sudden raid from the hall. The girls, they rushed through the stairs to meet their father, isn't it? And the poet, he is saying that a sudden raid from a hall. What is meant by raid? It's a surprise attack. Next, they enter my castle wall. The castle wall here, these 3 daughters, they climbed on the chair, isn't it? On the chair where this author was sitting and is reading a book. And here this poet is comparing that with a castle wall. Next, do you think, oh blue-eyed banditti? Banditti means robbers. Here the poet is comparing his daughters with robbers. Next, because you have scaled the wall. These are few examples from the poem in which we can find the metaphor used by the poet. A metaphor is a word or a phrase that is used to describe somebody or something else in a way that is different from its usual use. This is done to show that the 2 things have the same qualities and to make the description more powerful. In poetry, metaphors are a great way to communicate difficult thoughts in simple language. Here, why the poets are using metaphors? They are using metaphors to communicate with the readers, to say something, to compare two things and to show that those 2 things are with same quality and same character. The poet is comparing himself with a castle. He is comparing his heart with a dungeon, isn't it? So these are certain words and phrases which are used to compare something, compare 2 things which in general have no similar qualities, but the poet will compare those 2 things or compare 2 different things to show the comparison between them. And for the readers, we will think that both are same in character, same in qualities, similar qualities and character. This is what called metaphor. In a metaphor, we cannot find the words like, as. In simile, we can find like and as. In metaphors, we cannot find like and as. Without these two words, if the poet is comparing two things, if the poet is saying something instead of saying another word, that is called as a metaphor. I hope you all have understood. Students, take page number 21. Take page number 21. We all know what is punctuation, isn't it? Today we are going to learn something about colon and semicolon. The colon is a punctuation mark used in sentences to precede a list of items, a quotation, an expansion or explanation. This clarifies or explains the first part of the sentence. The first letter after the colon should be capitalized only for quotations and proper nouns. So colon, which means two periods, two dots, that is colon. Colon is a punctuation mark. It is used in a sentence to precede a list of items. For example, look at the third example. I have been to 3 beaches, Digha, Kovalam and Puri. So if we are saying 2 or 3 things, 2 or 3 items, for that we can use colon. Or for quotation, in the beginning of a quotation, for example, look at the first example. It was Oscar Wilde who said, colon. Next, they start with a quotation, isn't it? To live is the rarest thing in the world. So, before, in the beginning, before they start a quotation, we have to use a colon. Next, for expansion or for explanation also we can use colon. If we are using colon before a quotation or before a proper noun, we have to write it in capital letters. Here in the third example, I have been to 3 beaches. Here the 3 beaches, the name of the 3 beaches they are proper nouns, isn't it? And that's why they capitalized those 3 words. And if you are starting a quotation, and the quotation, the first letter in the quotation should be capitalized. Next, semicolon. Semicolon are used to join 2 independent clauses or 2 complete thoughts that could stand alone as complete sentence. The first letter after the semicolon need not be capitalized. Semicolon is just like colon. Here we have a period and a comma, a dot and a comma. Here semicolon are used to join 2 independent clauses. It is not subordinate clause, independent clause. That is main class. It has a subject and a predicate within itself. Look at the examples. I like watching Wildlife Extreme. That is an independent clause. Then a semicolon. The episode on polar bears is my favorite is another independent clause. To join these 2 independent clauses, we can use a semicolon in between. Next, this is the quietest place on earth, semicolon. There is no cellular network. These 2 are 2 independent clauses. and these two are connected by a semicolon. The semicolon is also used to join sentences with however, otherwise, in addition to, therefore. Look at the example. It rained all morning yesterday, semicolon. Therefore, the match was cancelled. Here, to connect two sentences, they are using these words, however, otherwise, in addition to, therefore. So, before that, we can use a semicolon. Is that clear, students? Okay. See you all in the next class. Until, take care.